Hello, everybody. It has been a fucking minute. Um, in all seriousness, you guys, thank you so much for your patience in the last. I feel like it's been a couple months. I think a lot of you guys were convinced that we were never coming back. And that was never our intention. That was never our plan. But life got a little crazy for both of us. Courtney is obviously pregnant and they're moving into a new home. And they had the Olympia. Christopher's been traveling a lot. So that's enough said. Explanation enough for Courtney's excuse. My life has been a little bit different, and I'm looking forward to sharing it all with you guys. But for now, for this episode, I'm just going to say thank you so much for your patience and for still wanting us to come back and catch up and continue with this beautiful thing called the Giver Podcast. We really, truly love doing it, and we appreciate you guys so much. I had a really long day. I just finished a therapy session with Jordan, but I'm committed. And Courtney was here over Christmas, and I said to her, like, we need to do one episode a week every week for the year of 2024. So here I am. I actually have an episode that I did record. Oh my God, I don't know when it was. A long time ago, before there was snow. I feel like I was a different person when I recorded it. I was watching it back and I was editing it this morning and I was like, oh my God, you look so different. You look so much less tired. You look more tan. So it was a Q&A from, I'm going to say probably a month, maybe a month and a half ago. I'm still going to post it because it has some good shit. You guys asked the questions and I'm giving you the answers. But this is just kind of a little intro and explanation to where we've been and what I've been going through. And I've been pretty open with you guys in terms of wanting to share and what I struggle with. And something that I'm realizing about myself, I used to identify as an introvert. I used to think that I was like an introverted person. I was someone who needed to be alone to recharge. And that's been flipped on its head a little bit. I think my adaptive response is to be an introvert. It's to isolate, it's to be alone, it's to not be seen, it's to hide in my shame a little bit. And I think healthy, safe Melissa is actually a very extroverted individual that gets energy and power and gets recharged from people and connection, from safe people, from good people. So I'm sure it's not that big of a stretch for you guys to realize that I've kind of been a little bit isolated for the last couple of months and I've been struggling a lot with a lot of different things. I've been having a little bit of, I don't want to call them health problems, but I guess that's exactly what they are. In terms of my thyroid function and my hormones, my fertility, things like that have really been taking a toll on me. And I've been struggling with a lot of shame, disappointment, fear, sadness. And then we had Christmas, and it was a pretty emotional, transformative holiday for me in terms of some things that I've dealt with for a lot of my life and who I've shown up as, and Melissa kind of as a child, and Melissa as a teenager, Melissa as an adult. Um, I'm totally rambling. I'm sure you guys are used to it, but I don't want to get too deep into anything right now because this episode would literally be 5 hours. I will say this. I am no longer hiding. I have nothing to be ashamed of. I am perfect as I am. And the growth that I'm doing is important and it's special and I want to share it. And I actually I posted on my story yesterday announcing that we were coming back. And I actually had a call yesterday with a nurse practitioner, Maddie, that works with Kale Diagnostics on Instagram. And they're going to help me with my hormones and my fertility and my health and a lot of things that I have been kind of avoiding and hiding from. I don't know if you guys can relate. I feel like if something is kind of worrying me or stressing me out, sometimes it feels easier to just like not acknowledge it and not to try to figure out what's going on or how to fix it. And I don't want to do that anymore. Not with my mental health, not with my physical health, with my sexual health, with my emotional health. So I'm going to bring you guys along for all of that. I'm doing a deep dive with Kale Diagnostics. I think we're starting with 3 tests, a stool sample for like gut health and what's going on in there. Maybe nothing. I don't know. We do a hair sample, I believe, and that's to test for any mineral deficiencies. And then we do a saliva, or no, urine, excuse me. It's urine for like sort of a Dutch test for hormones and cortisol throughout the day. And then we will compare that with the blood work that I've been doing that has been coming back, like some things not in range, other things in range, but suboptimal. And we just need to get a little bit information and figure out what's going on with my body and try to get this sucker ovulating again so I can make a baby. I just want to say, I don't want to get emotional, but I don't think I really understood. I always had empathy for people that were trying to conceive and couldn't, or it didn't happen right away, or it wasn't easy. But I don't think I truly understood the effect that it has on you as a woman when you want something so badly and it's just not happening. And I can totally see how hard it is when you're peeing on a stick every day to see if you're ovulating and you're not ovulating. And then you do think maybe the test is not accurate and you actually are ovulating. And then your period's a few days late. So then you think you're pregnant and then you're not pregnant, but then you miss a period. And I just want anyone who's ever struggled with this or who is struggling with it to know that you're not alone, and it's so hard and it's so emotionally exhausting and all consuming. And I love you. I see you. I hope you have the support that you need. If you don't, please message me. I would love to talk to you and be there for you. I started like all gung ho with the fertility clinic and all these things. And humans are funny. As soon as you start to realize that things aren't going to be easy or they're not in perfect working order, I almost like stopped following up on my appointments and stopped trying because I didn't want to get news that would devastate me or anything like that. And I started to avoid again and just think that this was going to happen for me. And it's not. And my cycle is not great and my hormones are not normal. So we need to figure it out. We need to take the emotions as they are and then stay logical and still use the resources that we have, control what we can control, have a healthier lifestyle. And that is what I'm doing. So, yeah, that I have no idea what I just said to you guys. I don't know if you understand, but long story short, I took some much needed time off from the podcast, from social media, and I'm back. Courtney will be back next week, hopefully. If not, it'll just be me again, and I'll probably dive a little bit deeper into what's actually going on with me. I think some things are private, and especially specific things are personal and sacred, but I also do think sharing some specifics could really help people that are going through the same thing. But that's where I've been. This is where I am. I am here. I want to be seen by you guys. I want to see you. And I'm really excited for 2024. I think it's going to be a really transformative year for me. I think it's going to be very special. And I think I'm finally realizing what I deserve from myself and from others. And I think for a long time, I wasn't giving that to myself. And step 1 is realizing what you need, and step 2 is giving it to yourself. So that's where we're at. 2024 It's the year of maybe disappointing other people, but showing up for myself. So part of showing up for myself is being here every week with you guys. I love you so much. I can't wait for 2024. I hope you guys had a beautiful holiday. I hope you spent time with your family. I hope you had delicious food. Hope you had some good cocktails, maybe mocktails. Went out in the snow if you have snow. And yeah, I love you guys. I will see you next week and the week after that and the week after that and the week after that. Okay, bye. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another week of Giver. I'm here again this week solo, and I put up a little Q&A not a week ago, a couple days ago on the Giver page. And then I also did it on my personal page to go over some questions with you guys, things you want to know about current life things, old life things, anything like that. Where to begin this week? So the Olympia was this past weekend, and Ian was down in Florida. He's been there for about a week now, and I'm home. We'll get to why I didn't go, because that was probably the most asked question on Instagram, especially because the question box went up around the time of the Olympia. For now, let's just give you an update on my last week. So Ian left on Tuesday, and every time he goes away, I kind of take the opportunity to better myself. If that means eating better, spending more time taking care of myself, maybe doing some things that I've been procrastinating or putting off, because it's easy to procrastinate when you have like someone to procrastinate with, basically. So I kind of took this opportunity, especially because it was a little bit hard to not be going with him, to make it a productive thing instead of a destructive time. I feel like it'd be really easy for me to feel bad for myself that I didn't get to go and be like, oh, this sucks. I'm going to drink wine with my girlfriends, or go out to dinners, or eat like shit, or I don't know, sleep on the couch, whatever people do, like negative coping mechanisms. And I decided I wasn't going to do that, because I knew that was just going to make me feel worse and make me feel more anxious that I wasn't able to be there. So I decided to focus on my running, focus on my eating, on my cooking, on things that I wanted to do around the house. I had a book club, our first book club, with a few of my girlfriends. And yeah, I just really wanted to do things that nourished me. So it was great. I ran my first 10K, which was amazing. It felt so good. It was extremely slow, as people pointed out to me on my Instagram. I think I ran like a 940 mile consistently, which is very slow, but I was proud of myself for going 10 kilometers without stopping, whether I was jogging slowly or not. And it felt really good. It was really sunny out, and I was listening to a good playlist, and it was just a really beautiful hour to myself. So I'm really thankful that I did that. And I actually did that on the day that Christopher was competing, because I had a lot of this nervous energy that I didn't really know what to do with. When you're there and you're helping, I mean, Ian's normally competing too, but when you're there and you're helping the boys get ready, there's a lot of avenues or things for you to expend that energy on, because you're always cooking, cleaning, coordinating, going from spot to spot. There's a lot of different ways for you to channel that nervous energy. But I was here alone, and I actually decided to watch it alone because, I don't know, I just wanted to watch it alone. So after I watched Prejudging, I had a lot of like energy and adrenaline, and I decided to go for a run, and I ended up just running for an hour straight outside, and it felt so good. And then Christopher had his finals on Saturday evening, and I watched that in bed. Again, it was hard for me because I had so much energy, and I'm normally someone that goes to bed very early. So I wake up every day probably around 5:30, and I go to sleep probably anywhere between 8:30 and 9:30. So I was in bed, and he was on, I think, around 7, and I just had adrenaline, but I had still been awake since 5 a.m. And I didn't end up falling asleep. And there was just a lot of screen time before bed. So I had a pretty rough day the next day, but that's fine. Christopher won. He did so well. It was so nice to watch him. He seemed so grounded and so present and really in his body while he was competing. So it was a really beautiful thing to see. And I'm really, really proud of him. I'm so happy he got that number 5. Yeah, I had a lot of emotions. I didn't really expect to feel so, I don't want to say sad because sad is not the word. I was happy because I got to see like all these beautiful photos of my family being together and people hugging and crying and really having that like physical connection. And I was really, really happy to see it. But it also made me have this feeling of longing that I was there. It wasn't sadness. I really can't say it was sadness at all, but there was definitely a feeling of longing and a feeling of, it's like when you feel this like big, happy feeling of love and you just want to give it, you want to hug, you want to talk, you want to say things, you want to experience, and there's nowhere for it to go. So yeah, it was interesting. I found myself very in tune with my feelings, getting very curious, working really hard at expressing how I was feeling in any way that I could, whether that was through a voice note or through a text message or through a phone call with the people that I loved, because obviously I'm not there in person. But it was a really beautiful thing to witness, even if it was witnessed through social media and YouTube and the live stream and FaceTime and text messages. But I'm so happy for him. I couldn't be more stoked that that's how this Olympia went for him. It also was pretty nice to see my husband. I feel like Ian was so happy and so excited to be there as a spectator and as a support for Christopher. I feel like he was really thriving. And I was on the phone with my mom and she was like, it's crazy how much Ian's energy is so different now that he's retired. And I'm just like, it warms my heart to hear that. So I'm so happy. And yeah, Ian drove home. I think him and Fuad left last night and they drove through the night, and he's actually due to arrive in about 3 hours. So they just drove, I think it was like 24 hours straight. And I'm really thankful that Fuad did that drive with him, because there's no way he could have done that alone. It's too much, especially overnight. So our truck will be back in Ottawa, which is really nice. I feel like it's about to snow here. So it's definitely time to have the truck back. I don't really know what else to update you guys on. I think there's a lot of things too in the questions that I was going over the questions, and a lot of them were kind of like, oh, this is very pertinent to me right now. Like, this is how I've been feeling in the last couple of weeks. I also kind of wanted to not like put out a disclaimer, but my best friend called me a few days ago and she was like, hey, I feel badly. My sister-in-law and my mother-in-law just called me because they listened to your last podcast and you sounded really sad in it. I wanted to make sure you were okay. And I want to make it like very, very clear that I used to be the person that would not share her feelings in real time. I was really good at sharing emotions after I had worked through them, and I felt like I had tied them up, and like I had this like neat little story and this neat little anecdote to share with the world. And my goal in starting the podcast was actually to have a platform where I didn't feel like I needed to do that. I didn't feel like I needed to have this perfect edited YouTube video or this like beautiful Instagram caption attached to this photo. And I really wanted it to just be a real, raw conversation. So a lot of my feelings that come out are in real time. And I'm assuming that you can feel them through the screen. I'm hoping that you can. That's the point. I just want to be able to share those feelings in real time and be very authentic with what's going on with me. And I'm still so full of gratitude for my health and my body and my life and all these amazing things that I have. But there are struggles that still happen, and I like to share them as I go through them and as I'm processing them. So Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there because I didn't want it to seem like I'm like super. I mean, even if I am down, that's okay too. I have a very, very strong support system around me. I'm so thankful for my girlfriends, for my husband, for my family, my parents, my in laws, who I will call my parents too. I just, yeah, I'm an oversharer, and that's just how it's always going to be. And I think I've said before, it comes with good and it comes with bad, and I'll take it all. I'll be thankful for it all. So I think that's all I had to say. I started putting up Christmas decorations today. It is, what day is it? November 7th. So it's actually Heather's birthday. My best friend Heather, happy birthday if you're listening. I love you so much. And I hope we get to celebrate in some way. I feel like you're so busy and you have so many friends and you have babies and a husband and like family, but we'll celebrate somehow. And happy birthday. I love you so much. But yeah, it's November 7th, and I decided today that I was going to put up my Christmas decorations. Ian just called me and he's like, "What did you do this morning?" I'm like, "Oh, I put up some Christmas decorations." He's like, "Are you fucking serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, you're not here, so I can do whatever I want." But I love Christmas. The weather outside is starting to feel like winter and it's getting flurry and cold, and Halloween's over. Canadian Thanksgiving is over, so I feel like it's appropriate. And we are going to Dubai. We leave for Dubai in about 2 weeks. And I wanted to make sure that everything was done before we go because I don't want to come home and have to do it. So I don't know. I'm rationalizing and I don't have to. My house is just going to be cheery and warm and cozy and cute. And Ian is just going to have to deal with it. Yeah. I guess let's just get into the questions because I'm rambling. Fuck it. Let's just start with this. Why weren't you at the Olympia? I've kind of alluded to this a few times on here, but I am having some immigration issues. And if anyone follows any sort of, especially if they were following the Olympia at all, I'm not alone at that. But I'm on a little bit of a timeout and we're just having some immigration issues for me to get back into the States. So we're dealing with that right now with a lawyer. And in the meantime, while it's being sorted through, I have to not stay in Canada, but I cannot go visit in the States. So that's what's going on right now, or else I would have been there in a heartbeat. And I believe in divine timing and I believe in the universe. And I think everything happens for a reason. And I know this will be sorted out in due time. And I am choosing to use the time that I have in Canada as a gift and maybe explore some different countries, explore some areas of Canada, and explore myself in my hometown and spend time with the people that I love that live so close to me. So that is what's going on. And yeah, that's all you're going to get. Would you ever consider being a mentor for someone who is going to start competing? No, I think that's what your coach is for. I truly believe that the relationship that a competitor has with their coach does end up being more of a mentor type thing. You need to trust them and share with them and follow one person's guidelines. I also wouldn't get back into coaching because that's just not aligned with my life anymore. I think I'm more involved and surrounded with different information and different people now. I'm more diving into fertility and balancing hormones and longevity and things like that. And I love competing. I'm still a huge fan of the sport. I watch the Olympia. I still follow a lot of different athletes and I like watching their careers. But for me right now, that's not the stage that I'm in. So I don't think it's really in alignment for me to work in that anymore. And that's not to say that coaches have to be in that stage of their life to want to do that, but it's just not my passion anymore. And I don't want to spend the day to day learning about things like that or being on the pulse of new, I don't know, research or new techniques or anything that, like, to be a good, successful coach, you do have to be. So no, I will share as much as I can. And what I've learned from it on here and through my socials, and hopefully that's enough. But in terms of having a mentor for competing, I would probably say that you really should use your coach as that, because sometimes having too many voices in your ear and having too many sources of information leads to confusion and second guessing, and it's a bit messy. So yeah, hope that makes sense. Okay, so I have a question asking if I meditate, and then I have another question asking about my favorite books for spiritual guidance and meditation. I do not meditate. It is definitely something that I have considered trying to tap into because I do think it's very powerful. I think there's a lot of learning and discovery that comes from stillness. And I think about how much I get from stillness when I have it, and how much I would actually start to tap into if I harnessed that and had a daily practice of it. I think it's something that a lot of people probably contemplate a lot before they actually start. And I'm in the contemplation stage. In terms of books for spiritual healing, I don't read a lot when it comes to that. I listen to audiobooks. So I started listening to The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. That's like a staple, I feel like, in the spiritual guidance world. I have listened to a lot of podcasts with Joe Dispenza in terms of energies and manifestation and language and our cognitive ability to kind of determine our future and who we are in this world. I listened to a lot of Peter Crone. My brother sent me Peter Crone probably almost 2 years ago now. And he's definitely somebody that everyone's different, right? Everyone has their vibe and how they kind of relate to the world and relate to themselves. And I'm very gentle, but I'm also no bullshit. And I find that's how I feel about Peter Crone. I feel like he's a lot about love and compassion and acceptance, but he's also who he is and he doesn't apologize for it. And I have a lot of respect for that. I don't know if he has a book out or if he's currently writing. I'm pretty sure he's in the process of writing his book, but he's on a lot of podcasts. You can just search him on Spotify and he'll come up. He's a fascinating individual. How to eat healthy with a low budget. Where does the new raw packets come into play in your supplement routine? I'm assuming you're talking about the Vitapaks that Revive dropped. So those are the prepackaged vitamins. They come in a box, and in the box there's 30 packages, and in each package is your daily allotment of vitamins. So there's a multi-mineral in there. There's CoQ10, which is an amazing antioxidant. There's fish oils, so omega-3s. There's turmeric, so that's an anti-inflammatory. And then there's one other plant-based antioxidant that I can't remember the name of, but that's an anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory plant-based vitamin too. So it's kind of like an overall health package that has a lot of organ support, immune support that you take every day. So I take that. I take it at night, actually. You can take your supplements whenever you want. I always remember at night before I go to bed. In the morning, I'm like a frazzle case. I find it's honestly the best when we're traveling because it's actually such a pain in the ass if you're going on like a weekend trip or if Ian left for a week and instead of stressing out about supplements, he just took out 7 of these prepackaged vitamins and put them in his toiletry bag. And you just know that you can stay on track no matter what. You're either talking about those or the bum hydration packages that are coming in the single serve sleeves. And those, again, I take 1 electrolyte package once a day. So obviously we all know what it means to hydrate. And especially if you're active, you need more than just water. You need to replenish your sodium, your potassium, and that's what those hydration packages do. So yeah, 1 a day. I usually take it in the morning, to be honest. Ian takes it during his training session, but I like to rehydrate after I've slept because I know I've dehydrated overnight, and I like to start my day hydrated and feeling good. But yeah, I don't know if you were asking about which one, but how to set boundaries with toxic in-laws, plus what boundaries? Mother-in-law and 2 sisters-in-law. First of all, God bless you. That's probably really, really hard, especially with 3 women in your partner's life. I'm going to come at this from 2 perspectives because number 1, I have a brother, and number 2, I have a husband. So as a sister who loves my brother dearly, I would always try to assume the best of intentions. So don't go into interactions or don't observe their behaviors from the lens of they're toxic or they hate me or they don't want me or they're jealous of me. Observe their behaviors and like your interactions from the lens of, oh my God, they love my husband so much. They grew up with him. They've seen him from a baby. My mother-in-law raised him. She loves him so much. She's so protective of him, just like I'm protective of him. And try to have that bias towards them instead of the toxic bias. Now, from the perspective of being Ian's wife and having a mother-in-law, I would say that if I was dealing with any sort of boundary issues, I would expect my husband to kind of take that on because it's his family. And I would be really clear in my communication with him how I was feeling and how they were making me feel and the boundaries that I needed for my family being me and my husband and kids, if you have them, for us to be comfortable. And I would really expect him to step up and deal with that because it's his family. And I say that because, for example, if Ian had boundary issues with my mom or with my parents and I knew about them, I would want to support him in that. And I would want to take that on and lead that conversation with my parents and my family. So that's my suggestion. Without a lot of details from you, I can't really give a very detailed response, but I hope that helps a little bit. And I just think you should treat everybody with grace because at the end of the day, most people are functioning from a place of love. And this is his family and they do love him. So try to remember that. When you first started bodybuilding, what was the easiest / hardest things you had to do to become pro? I don't think anything was easy. To be honest, the hardest thing was definitely the change in lifestyle. So there was a lot of adjustment in terms of not being able to eat out, not being able to have family dinners, not being able to go out and have drinks with my friends. I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, and that was a really hard adjustment. I also would say at the very beginning, when I first started competing, there was a very big shift in my ability to emotionally regulate while I was prepping. I became a very intense, rigid individual, and that kind of affected my emotional regulation and my ability to pivot and be agile within my intimate relationship with Ian. So learning how to balance that was really, really tough. That was the hardest. And I wouldn't say anything. I mean, I was very blessed genetically. So I don't think I had to work for as hard, as long as some people did to get their card. It came pretty quickly to me because of my genetics and my physique, my ability to put on muscle, my overall shape and structure. So that was I was privileged in that aspect, but I wouldn't say that made it like easy. It just made it happen quicker. Family vacation soon. Christopher and Courtney are coming down in December. So that's the next time we're going to do, I think, a little bit of a snowboard trip. Do you think a controlling partner can change? I think that depends on the person and how self-aware they are, how willing they are to change. I think to actually change in any sort of dynamic like that, you have to get to the root of the issue. So why are you controlling? What is it about you or about me that makes you feel like you need to be controlling? I believe anybody can change if they want to. It's about their ability to look in the mirror and actually see how they're coming across. And it's about their willingness. Yeah, I do. I think it's important to have the right tools and to have the right communication. But yes, 100%. Did you count macros before you started competing? No, I'm not like a macro counter. I never have been. What was your first step when you knew you wanted to compete in bodybuilding? I just started getting ready for a show. I'm really lucky that I was dating Ian at the time, who he wasn't coaching when I started to compete, but he was confident in his ability to get me ready for a show. So I just kind of started and just did whatever he said. How to deal with stagnating in weight loss, and any tips to move past stagnating. I would say you have to change something. Usually that means pulling back and maybe going the opposite way for a little bit. So maybe that means you have to pull back on your activity levels and maybe gain a few pounds and then sit there for a little bit and then rev back up. But I would just say patience is really, really necessary for weight loss that's going to last and for weight loss done right. And it's not supposed to be fast. People show these transformations and you get so like, wow, I want to do that. But healthy, lasting weight loss happens over years. It happens slowly over a very long time. And just be patient. I hope that helps. I can't really give a specific answer without like asking like all these like follow-up detailed questions, but how's the muscle loss going? Any stubborn spots? All my muscle is stubborn. I have lost some muscle, especially in my back, but my arms and my shoulders are still very muscular. And I don't know if I'll ever have the thin arms that I kind of tend to be drawn to, but it's all right. I'm learning to love and accept myself as I am. I haven't done any sort of upper body resistance training in probably about 8 months. And Ian looked at me the other day and was like, it's a wonder how muscular your shoulders and your arms still are from doing so much cardio and lowering food and not doing any weight training. But yeah, so that's the stubbornness. Definitely my triceps. What is your go-to low calorie Starbucks coffee? I don't know if my Starbucks order is low calorie, but I normally get an iced oat milk latte with sugar-free vanilla or Splenda with blonde espresso. I taste a really big difference of the blonde espresso. I find it a lot smoother at Starbucks. Or in the winter, I'll do either a hot almond milk latte with blonde espresso and sugar-free vanilla, or I'll do a oat milk misto. So that's less milk because I find the oat milk is I think it is pretty high calorie at Starbucks and it's very creamy. So I need less of it, especially in a hot coffee. But I'm some sort of blonde espresso drink with either Splenda or sugar-free vanilla and either oat milk or almond milk. That's what I do. Almond milk, I'm pretty sure, is the lowest calorie at Starbucks, but it also tastes like water to me. So I usually indulge and do the oat milk. How do you support someone going through a divorce? That's an interesting question. I've never had a friend go through a divorce or like a parent or a family member or anything like that. If I were to imagine, I think it would probably be very lonely. I think being used to living with someone, being married to someone, having someone there all the time, and then all of a sudden that's gone, I feel like that would be very, very lonely. So I would say definitely support them with quality time if you can. Be there for them, spend time with them, be available, text, phone call, go do groceries with them, go to their home. Because I could see that being a very sad and lonely time. So that's what I would suggest. Breast implants for figure girls, placement, shape, etc. Placement, this is really interesting because when I first got my boobs done, it was all about under the muscle. Under the muscle is better. It looks more natural. When you get super lean, you can't see the ridging. And I absolutely understand that. But now that I'm older, I think honestly for people that work out, it's actually better to go over the muscle because there's less impact on the implant from the muscle contracting on top of it. I also think that being that lean when you're on stage is such a short period of your life and you're in a suit anyways. So you're not going to see the ridge of your implant because you're wearing a suit on stage. And then 2 weeks later, you're going to have a little bit more body fat. So it's going to be covered. I think it's less traumatic. I think the recovery is easier. I think the explant is easier. So I would actually probably suggest over the muscle. And I would always do a high profile implant. I had a moderate profile when I got my first set done. And I personally like when boobs look fake. So I would always do a high profile. Yeah, that's my suggestion. I also think if you see a good surgeon, they are going to look at the size of your, I don't know what it's called, not a capsule, but like the place where the implant's going to go. And then they can determine the size and the projection, because the more projection, the less space it's going to take up because it's going to be going out forward and not taking up space this way. But you also don't want to have like a big gap. So definitely have a surgeon that talks to you about those kind of things because they matter. I went to go see Dr. LeBlanc in Montreal because he does a technique called the internal bra, but I'm pretty sure that's mostly for people that are getting revisions done because he had to use my scar tissue and actually create almost this holder on the bottom of my implant using the scar tissue. So it actually holds my implant in place and prevents them from drooping. So I literally always feel like I have a bra on. And I'm under the muscle. So I do not ever do any sort of chest training. I never want this to contract at all because if the pec muscle is contracting, it's actually pushing on the implant and potentially moving it and affecting that internal bra, affecting placement, things like that. So keep that in mind if you're going over or under the muscle. How do you deal with sexual needs when partner is on PrEP? Oh, that's hard. Get a vibrator. That sounds so insensitive. And I'm also not joking. I think self-pleasure is a very good thing, especially if you have a partner that is getting ready for a show and doesn't really have the capacity to always be there for you. And communicate, talk to them, tell them how you're feeling, make sure that there's other ways that you can connect with your partner if they're not feeling like they're able to provide sexually, and have compassion and grace. Not a question, but I met you at the gym recently. Thank you for being so sweet. That's really nice. Thank you for being so sweet and meeting me. How will you approach if you have a daughter that wants to compete at a young age? I don't know if I want to answer this. I don't know. I don't have a child yet, so I don't want to speak like I have all the answers because I don't know what it feels like to have a kid. I think it's a really fine balance in supporting them and making them feel like they're able to have autonomy in their decisions and who they become and what they do, and also guiding them based on my experience and my wisdom and knowledge of the world. I would prefer that my child doesn't get into bodybuilding. As many good things as it brought to my life, it also brought a lot of complicated things. But if they did get into bodybuilding, I would love and support them as much as I could. And I would use everything that I've learned to try to help them and guide them through it. And I would trust that I raised a kid that is smart enough and strong enough to do what they want and to stay true to themselves. Okay. So those are enough questions for today. Yeah, I hope you guys are having an awesome week. I hope you're enjoying the seasons changing if you're in a place where the seasons change, and I hope you're giving her. And I love you guys very much. Bye.